Hey guys, it's Melanie. Welcome back. I hope your day is off to a fantastic start. I have another round of candle reviews to share today. I know for sure that I can get 2 done today when I'm filming, but I'm gonna try to actually get 3 finished for today. I am still trying my dangest to get through a lot of these like Christmas reviews, but I'm not gonna lie. It's been hard to like burn through all of these candles. Time just kind of got away from me. So a few of these reviews may come after the actual holiday, but I will say you'll probably then end up finding a lot of these fragrances on clearance because they are specific holiday fragrances. And if you are wanting to maybe stock up for next year on some of your faves, then you're gonna be getting some better deals. So at any rate, we are kicking it off today with a candle that is obviously very near and dear to my heart. I've already done an in-depth review of just kind of the overall story behind my Kringle Candle collab, which is what Vintage Pomander is. So if you're curious about a little bit of like a longer story about why I chose this particular type of fragrance, you know, how the testing process went, maybe what I learned throughout this project, definitely check that video out. I will put it in the cards up above towards the end of this video, and I'll also put it in the description box down below, but that's gonna give you a lot more in-depth information. What I wanna do today is just my usual in-depth review for those of you that don't wanna sit through that longer video, just to kind of tell you, you know, what you can expect from this fragrance, the best way to burn it, because there is a very specific size of wick that I opted for with this fragrance, and it definitely makes the candle burn a little bit hotter, specifically for the first few burns, which I think helps with the overall strength and throw. But you also just kind of want to be careful, a little bit more careful with these wicks. But we'll get into all of that information when we get to that part of the review. So, all right, you guys. This is Vintage Pomander. This is my Kringle Candle collab that was, I believe, maybe slightly over 2 years in the making. Quite a process. The last part that really kind of held things up, and this was my bad, I just had a hard time trying to find a label that really spoke to me. This whole project was kind of a, like an homage to some of my like core childhood memories growing up at my Oma and my Opa's house. I spent a lot of time there as a child because my mom was really young when she had me, and so just kind of, I guess, naturally fell on my Oma and Opa, who, if you are not familiar, Oma and Opa is grandma and grandpa in German. It kind of fell on them to help to essentially raise me. So the first 10 years of my life before I moved to the United States, I spent a lot of time with my Oma and my Opa at their farmhouse. They lived in a very small town in a rural part of Germany. And so what I was really going for with this label was kind of just tying in all of those core memories of my childhood. My Oma used to keep me busy by having me make orange pomanders around the holidays. I think it just honestly kind of helped to keep me out of her hair for a little bit because I just always wanted to be involved in everything that she was doing. So, you know, she was really good about giving me creative projects to do, and making the pomanders was one of my favorite things. She also used to have me pick up the walnuts that fell from the absolutely enormous old walnut tree that they have in their front yard. So there is a bowl of walnuts obviously on this label. So trying to find something that kind of combined all of those elements was hard. I honestly looked for a very long time through hundreds and hundreds of like stock images to try to find something that spoke to me, and this was the label. But this was like kind of the ultimate holdup here, was this label. And then the company that Kringle uses to make their labels was very behind. These labels were ordered 3 months ago. Typically they take about a month to arrive, but they arrived 3 months after ordering. So it was, that really was the holdup. But now that she's here and it's starting to arrive to the first round of people who were able to order it, I just wanted to do this in-depth review just to kind of take you through. And also I want to let you guys know that Kringle did, and Mick told me this personally, so I'm going to hold him to it. He did tell me that because this particular fragrance did so well, that they will definitely be keeping it around for, he said, years to come, and that's a quote. So we're gonna hold Mick to that. If you weren't able to get your hands on that, on this Vintage Pomander fragrance this holiday season, please know that it will be back next year. I certainly hope that they keep the same label and the cute little pug that you see on the label, but I would also understand if they wanted to switch it up. But let's go ahead and get into it, you guys. We're gonna go ahead and start with the scent description. We'll go through the fragrance notes. I'll tell you what I smell, and we'll talk about these wicks and the best way to burn this bad boy to get kind of the max performance out of her. Okay, Vintage Pomander. A lively mingle of orange zest and sweet lemon offers a sweet and citrus aroma, while a bit of spice, vanilla, and earthy warmth make for a special holiday blend. The top notes here are orange zest and sweet lemon. The mid notes are clove leaf and cinnamon bark. The base is sheer musk, vanilla, and cedarwood. So my overall vision for this was for the emphasis to be on the orange and not so much the clove. Now the clove is an important part of it, and you're gonna smell clove in here. Like, let's just say that up front. I know that some people get scared off by clove, and I don't blame you, because it can be quite potent and it can kind of be overwhelming depending on how much clove is used. But I feel like the clove leaf that's used here is really what makes this a much more, I would say, maybe palatable version of a typical orange pomander type scent. There is much more emphasis on the citrus. The clove is going to come out a little bit more once you light this up. You are also going to get that really lovely just hint of cedarwood in here, which to me is what gave it just that touch of like a holiday tree type note in the background. That was another really important aspect for me. This was obviously specifically slated to be a holiday release. So, you know, it was important for me just to have it tie in with Christmas to begin with. So you do smell just a touch of that like cedarwood in the background. The vanilla just kind of softens everything just a touch. And the cinnamon that you smell is quite faint as well. I knew I wanted there to be a touch of cinnamon in here because a lot of orange pomander scents do have just a hint of it, and I think it makes sense. But if you've been with my channel for any amount of time, you know that I'm pretty sensitive to cinnamon, and I really don't want an overly spicy cinnamon. And Kringle did an amazing job just right off the bat. I remember the first few samples that they sent me, all of them were just such a great blend. And they were not super heavy in terms of focus on the cinnamon. I think a lot of Christmas candles just go too heavy on it, and I didn't want that. The way that they did this, the way that they blended it, it's perfect, you guys. If you like more of the emphasis on the citrus versus the spice notes, I think you're really gonna like this particular pomander. And if you like a little bit of like that holiday tree type vibe in the background as well, I think this one is also gonna speak to you. Obviously, this is my personal take on a, you know, pomander type fragrance. You might maybe want a little bit more emphasis on the clove, and that might bum you out. But for me, this is the perfect blend, you guys. It is so lovely. It's soft, it's festive, it's pretty, it's vibrant. it just makes me happy. I don't think that I could have asked for a better end result here in terms of the fragrance overall. And by the way, one of the samples, and I said this in my longer video as well, one of the fragrance samples that I received would eventually become Away in a Manger. It was one of the original fragrances that their perfumers sent to me as like a sample to consider and to maybe potentially tweak. But it wasn't quite right for me. So if you have Away in a Manger, you definitely already have, I guess, maybe one of my scents if you were able to get your hand on the Vintage Pomander. But I will say Vintage Pomander is different from Away in a Manger. That one just had a little bit more going on with it than what I was personally interested in. I want something a little bit more straightforward, and this is just that more straightforward, typical type of orange pomander type fragrance. So let's talk strength and throw. So I'm gonna say that the strength of this usually for me has been falling between like a 7, 7.5. When I put it in a hurricane, I can get a little bit more in terms of strength. But I haven't really put it in a hurricane a whole lot. I think it does fine on its own, to be totally honest. And I typically will light up 2 at a time. I do this a lot with Kringle candles sometimes, is if I'm just wanting like that one particular scent going, and I don't want to light up any other fragrances, a lot of times I will buy 2 or 3 or 4 of my favorites and then burn one at one end of the house and one at the other. When I do that, the entire downstairs of our house is filled with this fragrance. It is so good. The throw is actually quite good as well. I'm gonna put that between a 7 and a 7.5 as well. I'm actually hoping that since Kringle is keeping this one around, and I know that they are planning on offering larger sizes with additional wicks in the future, I'm hoping that I can maybe convince Mick to put this into a larger format. That way, you know, maybe I can take it down to just burning 1 at a time. But I've typically been doing 2 at a time. So I don't think you have to. Also know that my house, we have very large ceilings here. They're very high. It's very open concept. So, you know, I do think that it takes kind of a lot for a candle to, you know, fill the space on its own. I usually have some other home fragrance going at the same time. But this one is performing quite well just on its own in the space. So strength and throw, I think, are quite good. Let's talk about the wicks. For the first few burns, you are going to experience some pretty heavy mushroom tops on this. The wick size is maybe, I will say, I think it's a touch too big, but that is what gave me the best strength and throw with this. It's kind of a fine line with the wicks. You don't want to go too big or too small. Too big and you might start to deal with a little bit of smoking potentially. Too small and it's just not, you know, enough strength and throw. But these here I think are quite perfect. So I would say for the first few burns, burn this for about 3-4 hours max. You're gonna notice those big mushroom tops. Extinguish the candle, wait for it to harden, trim those wicks. You can trim them a decent amount. I certainly do. I mean, I don't go down to like nubs or anything like that, but use good judgment there. You don't want them too short, but you also don't want them, you know, having those big leaning over mushroom tops either. After about the 4th or 5th burn, typically by that point the wicks kind of die down just a touch, and so you don't have to trim them quite as aggressively. But for the first few burns, it gets quite hot and you'll have to watch it just a little bit. That being said, as you go down, I have found that with the 2 that I have burned completely now at this point, that they have a solid performance all the way down. I have yet to put one of these into a candle crock. I'm not sure I will. They perform great the whole way down, and yeah, I don't want to hide the label. I love the label. So yeah, just trim those wicks is kind of my biggest piece of advice for getting a good quality burn. I'll show you an overhead view so you can see where I'm at with this one. That wax is still nice and it has that beautiful creamy color. There's no discoloration whatsoever. I trimmed these wicks ever so slightly and you can see that not even like 15 minutes. I just literally lit this right before filming this video. Not even, you know, it hasn't been 20 minutes. It's not completely pulled out. I can already smell it. And those flames are still nice and tall and giving me a really great strength and throw. So I am really, really pleased with this project. I am so excited to see all of your initial thoughts being posted over on the Facebook groups as well as on Instagram. Just really makes me happy to see how you guys are feeling about this scent. So definitely leave your thoughts in the comments down below if you've had a chance to either just smell it on cold sniff or if you've had a chance to burn it. I would love to hear your guys' take in the comments down below as well. So thank you again for supporting me throughout this project. I know the launch wasn't quite as smooth as it should have been, but at least we have a guarantee that this fragrance is gonna be sticking around. And honestly, that's all that I could personally ask for. So big fan over here of Vintage Pomander, and I can't wait to buy more. All right, you guys, thanks so much for being here. Stay tuned for the subsequent reviews coming up a little bit later on today, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Toodaloo.